Hi, and so welcome to Contact a Family and our webinar today. So, as you know, you're all listening via your computer, so there's a technical hitch. Please do bear with us. We know things sometimes go wrong. Hopefully, if you're now joined, you should be able to see this introduction slide. If you've got any problems, either you can see but can't hear or vice versa, there is a little icon with the wavy hand. You can press that for some help. Or equally, you can email or telephone Helen if you've got problems. As there's so many attendees, it's not practical for us to have verbal questions, so you will all be on mute throughout this. But at any point that if you're interested and you want to ask a question, just go to your question icon on your GoToWebinar toolbar and then just type it in. And what we will do is we'll take as many questions as we can at the end. We'll select as many relevant questions we can as time allows, and if similar questions are received, I will condense these where possible. If we have further questions that's not covered, just bear in mind what we will be doing is collating all the information and then posting that on the Contact a Family website, along with the recording of this webinar and details of which will be circulated to you all next week. And also don't forget, at the end of the webinar, there will be a short questionnaire which will launch. And do take some time to complete this, as it obviously will assist with the future online training events and gaining feedback to see what works and what doesn't. So my name is Fazila Ahmed. I'm a Contact a Family Associate and Chair of Our Voice. And we're really pleased that we've got Jean Fitzpatrick, the Chair of Warrington Parent Carers, with us, as well as Sharon Wilson, who's a Development Officer there. So Jean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jean Fitzpatrick, and I've been working with Warrington Parents and Carers now for about 2.5 years. And our journey as a forum really has taken us from being a good forum to a great forum. And we hope that this will give some insight in how we feel we've achieved this. I think it's more important about how we get here as opposed to what we do from a strategic level. I also feel that it's far more valuable and something that I would have appreciated when I started the journey a few years ago. I think if it was to give 3 top tips, there would be 1, turning your group into a team. There's no I in team. Coming up with a development officer post and our branding, which we'll go into all of those a bit later on.
Great, thanks Jean. And Sharon?
Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm the current development officer with Warpack. Some of my responsibilities are to coordinate dates with the team, to attend board meetings and support Jean by collating lots of minutes for everything we attend, for spreading the word of Warrington Parents and Carers, motivating our forum is really important, and growing our membership, and we'll touch on a bit more later.
So not much really.
No, that's
you're the cog in the wheel. And as you can see actually from this presentation here, we've got some excellent contribution from Surrey Forum as well as Bromley Parent Carer Forum. Gemma South, who's the head of comms team at Contact a Family, has contributed, as well as a colleague that I know is head of marketing, but she's also happens to be the chair of Enfield National Autistic Society. So good team effort. So we've got lots to get through, and we know we've got a really diverse audience. Some of you who may be new and are very new to all of this, and it will be a massive issue, and some of you will be very familiar. So we're going to try and cover everything that we can, but again, remember that we will have this posted on the website and recorded. So if you don't get it all, you can go back to it. So we'll be covering the building blocks, so mission, vision, values. What's your unique selling proposition? Elevator pitch will explain all of that. Branding, we'll talk some time around branding and getting a consistent, cohesive approach and look and feel. Warrington will come in with all of their brilliant examples of what they've been doing recently, and looking at how we plan for communications and how we make that work. And then we do a bit of some creative work and sort of thinking outside of the box. So hopefully that should be an interesting session for all of you. So the beginning parts, where do you start? You've got to start literally from the beginning and actually looking at who you are and what you stand for. And even if you already have that, I would definitely recommend revisiting that on an annual basis. So, you know, when you're coming up to monitoring now, looking at what you've been doing so far, what's worked, what hasn't, as we look to, you know, DFE grant application for the coming year, it's a really good opportunity to look at your vision. You know, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What change are we trying to make in this world of ours? and revisit your mission. So what your mission is maybe, if your vision is kind of your aspiration, think of it that way, what you're trying to achieve in the, you know, the idyllic world, your mission then is your purpose. What is it that you're going to do to make that vision happen? And then equally important are your values, how you operate. So what's important to you, your ethics, your ethos. So for example, here we've got Contact a Family. Their vision, you can see here, is that families with disabled children feel valued and are strong, confident and able to make the decisions that are right for them. How do they do that? Their mission, well, they enable families to support themselves, other families, and Contact a Family to support more families. And here you've got some values, you know, you've got ambitious, transforming lives, challenging the disadvantaged, trust and a trusted. That's just an example. You've got Save the Children here, a world in which every child attains the right to survival, protection, development and participation. I mean, that's massive, but that's what the vision is supposed to look like. And then your mission here is to inspire breakthroughs in the way the world treats children and to achieve immediate and lasting change in their lives. Personally, I still feel that's a bit more of a vision, but again, it gives you a good example here. And here their values, you can see accountability, ambition, collaboration, creativity, integrity. I would suggest you only have a few values. If you have too many, it gets too unwieldy and you kind of lose the thread of what you're trying to achieve. So here we've just thought about some potential vision statements and examples for your forums. I'm sure you will all have some, but if you want to reinvent or revisit, there's some examples here. We've got families with children and young people with SEND have greater choice as to how they live their lives, or children and young people with SEND can live the lives they want. Or you've got here where parents of children and young people with SEND feel enabled, empowered and listened to. I think Warrington's keen on that one. And you know, where children and young people with SEND can reach their full potential. And depending on your forum and your bandwidth and what you're trying to achieve, you can play around with that, whether it's families, whether it's children, young people, whether it's all services. Think about what you're doing and your remit, and then, you know, play around with some of those ideas and concepts. Potential mission statements, again, these are just examples. So we involve parent carers in forging strong partnerships with agencies to transform the lives of children with SEND. Or it could be we transform the lives of children and young people with SEND through involving and supporting parent carers in strategic planning. Or we inform, train and support parent carers to co-produce local services and facilities to include disabled children and young people. And again, I would say where we're in a good time for planning, because we're just closing down this last year gone, we're thinking about what we want to do for this coming year. Great opportunity to do some team building work with your management teams, with your steering groups, with your parent reps, to actually come together and look at what does this all mean for you, and create or reinvent or reconfirm, in fact, what you already have. So this is a great visual here of one from Warrington Parent Carers, and I can see our vision. It says there 2020. Jean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was just really innovative. I think at the time we decided to launch a New Look forum with our first conference in 2016 with the local authority, where we commissioned an artist to catch the voices, themes and the feedback from the day. The original of this is in the entrance to Integrated Service Building in Warrington, which all sits on one site. And then we had a replica made, which we hang in the Sensory Centre where we live. We have our office there. We now use the messages to weave this into our SEND strategy and how we deliver it as a forum.
I think that's really interesting and so visual, and I think it's really great that actually the local authority have bought into that and that they've got that out in there.
Yeah, I mean, and the thought that, you know, we've just recently completed our second annual conference, and this is what we based all the programme that we did that day, the agenda, on that.
Fabulous. So you're using that and weaving it through the key themes. Okay, so we're talking about now what makes us all unique, because obviously we're all at forums together, but we are all going to be slightly different. So really it's important for you to look at what is, and they call it your USP, and that's obviously there, the unique selling proposition. So clearly a lot of us will have knowledge, we've got expertise in disability legislation, Experience, we have, you know, extensive experience bringing up our children. And remember the different age ranges. So you're 0 to 5, you know, school age and college age. Make sure that if you know, are you representing that? And if you're not, that's fine. Then focus on what you can represent, and then you can always build up as you develop and go forward. Clearly, we're more speedy and flexible than a lot of organisations because of the way we're made up and the way we operate. Think about the networks that you might have, who the contacts are. I know Sharon and June will talk a little bit about that later. And obviously, again, a really important part of our proposition is that we are local and we understand the issues that are happening locally within our areas, but equally we can look at the bigger picture regionally and nationally. So think about what is it that makes you unique. And some of us will only have DFE grant, and so it will be focusing around participation. Others might be getting funding from other areas, and you're doing a wider thing where you can be supporting family and family networks. So think about what's unique to yourself and your organisation. And then create, again, it's all very technical here, an elevator pitch. But it's kind of, if you were stuck in a lift with somebody and you've got 30 seconds to tell them what you do, this is your elevator pitch. So we've got a couple of examples here. Family Voice Surrey, it's speaking up for families, which I really like. And in Warpac Warrington, we've got Make a Difference as a strap line, and you've also got the voice.
Have a voice.
Have a voice, which I think is really nice. So you've got your elevator pitch, which is detailed here, and then you've got a couple of strap lines that you can pull on. So we're now coming on to branding, and you can see from this, I think all of you, I would like to think, recognises Macmillan Cancer Support, you know, whether they're holding their coffee mornings, whether they're doing a fun race, whatever they're doing in the high street, at school, whatever, you recognise that, and that's what we're talking around branding. If you look at the Contact a Family, even this presentation, you can see the red on white with the logo in the corner, you know, everything's showing a distinct brand and colouring. So equally, you have to look at what is your brand, how are you presenting that with your vision, mission and values, and it's really important. It involves creating a unique name and image for your organisation, bearing in mind that people you want to communicate with. And actually, you know, we have a huge audience, which again we'll touch on later, but it can go from the local authority, which in itself is massive and diverse, through to parent carers, young people, as well as the NHS. The brand obviously includes your name, your logo, your colours and your typefaces. And again, some of you may already have that, some of you may not. Jean will in a little bit talk about how they develop theirs. But it's good to revisit and make sure it's fresh and it's as you would want. It's the image that's associated with your organisation, and your brand really is created by what people see and hear about you, whether that's through, you know, communications, letters and emails, your website, how you're communicating in meetings, your reputation, and actually how you are known externally. And the key thing, we'll be talking about this all the way through, one of the key messages will be consistency, consistency, consistency. So consistent, appropriate brand helps you present your organisation as you'd want it to be known, hopefully effective, efficient, caring, an expert, etc. So here, Jean, is again a great photograph of you with your stand and your guys in the uniform. Brilliant. How did that come about?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we opened our conference last year with our new branding, and about 18 months ago we completely rebranded the forum. We used our DFE grant, or some of it, to redesign our website, which was really, I think, the biggest thing and the first thing that we sat down as a group and said we needed to do. We used a professional, and we brought in a professional to do that with some of our funding, to work with them as a team. They set up all our social accounts, Twitter, Facebook, and if you use it, the advantage of using a professional, and it is expensive, I make no excuses about that, it's quite an expensive thing to do, but done right, they will train you to look after your website, and they will teach you all the intricacies of logistics if you're under par with that, as I was at the time. But it's really important as well to get the right dynamic within the team, that the rest of the group are confident in attending the right meetings for them. Really, I think that's a big thing. Everyone has skills. Every member of the group has a skill. and it needs to be used at the right time in the right place. And to help the group dynamic, we got someone in to work confidentially with each member of the group in order to empower them to give their perspective in private, so they didn't feel as if they were in a position where they were saying things that others wouldn't like. And then we pooled it all together and had a big meeting about that, but all these stuff we got from that was confidential. There was no names attached to them, which worked really well for us as a group. And
I guess that helps with everybody making sure that they can equally contribute and create this great brand that you've put together. So we've got here Sharon. Very lovely.
This is a picture of me in my gorgeous uniform, which again I wear every time I'm in the office. Most meetings that we go to, I will always wear the Warrington Parents and Carers branding. Our colours have been consistent within even the Facebook post that you can see on there, just to invite to our information services for the coffee morning. We tend to run the brand consistently using our blue and green colours all the time. This is a post of our website. Again, you can see the consistent feel with the colours, with our logo, the 2 hearts, parents and families. Our other strapline is Your Voice Matters, and we've also got Make a Difference that you saw on the artist's work earlier, and that's what we use to promote throughout. You see, we've got flyers, we've got letter-headed paper, we've got the roll banners. Everything has got our straplines and our quotes and our colours on it.
Personal cards and stuff as well we use.
And sometimes that can seem obvious, but actually it's really important to get it right. And again, I would suggest, even if you think you've got this stuff, revisit what you're doing and what you may have, because sometimes some of it works, sometimes it might not be giving you the right image that you would want.
Even promotional items, for example, things that we've done for bags for the disability days or the conference that we did, was all created around the colours of our brand. Nothing was veered off, so there's not a red pen, or it's all Warrington Parents and Carers colours and feels right throughout everything we've ever handed out or promoted.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear, consistency. And actually, don't forget that you are your brand. So, you know, we've talked about the values, but also behaviours. So if some of your values are around trust, confidence, honesty, transparency, collaboration, obviously then it's important that we all as team members are reflecting that, and actually we are our best ambassadors. So if you're looking at the 4 images below, you know, what impression do you get from each of these people? Who would you trust? Which one would you listen to? I'd like to think it's the one on to my left. But you know, sometimes we forget, and it's really hard that actually how we come across, and that's really important, not just your steering group, but if you've got volunteer reps, etc., that you're being really clear that that everybody's bought into the brand and they understand the ethos around that. So your behaviours should reflect your values, and the role modelling is really, really important. And you know, if you do have some new members joining, I think it's always worth having conversations, discussions, and making sure that they are, you know, understanding of that. And I think to your point, Jean, you know, having the somebody coming around and actually asking their views, their perspective, and building on their confidence, all of it helps kind of reinforce that. Yeah,
I think, you know, everything, if they walk in and see the people there, they instantly know who we are. So they've got, if they're there on their own, for instance, and they walk into a room, they instantly know who they can approach.
Yeah.
With the friendly faces and, you know, the uniforms. I think it's just a catch situation, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so what about your forum? Obviously, we've got some questions here, and not necessarily for this minute, but when you go away, do you have a clear vision, mission and values? Does everybody know that, down to your volunteer reps? Have you agreed behaviours, you know, what's acceptable, what isn't? What behaviours and values do your steering group reinforce? And it might be that sometimes, you know, we're in meetings and we might not all be modelling the right behaviour. So it's having those conversations and being clear about what's acceptable and what isn't. Okay, so we're going to talk about now good communications planning, because that's absolutely key. So planning, and then sometimes when we're all very busy and we're rushing around, aren't we? We're doing a conference, we're doing a coffee morning, we kind of do more probably than we plan. And we all know that if we plan up front, the doing becomes so much easier and more effective. So equally with your communications, you should be thinking about your communications planning and link it to your vision, your mission, and your values. And equally, you need to be thinking about your communication objectives. What is it that you want to get out of that? Knowing your audience, looking at what your key messages are, and then looking at how you disseminate that out. So we'll talk about those in each area. So in the first quadrant, establish your communication objectives. So what is it you want to achieve? What are your goals? And I mean, for a forum, it could be you're wanting to raise awareness, or you want to recruit 5 more volunteers. It might be as specific about as that. But what's the point of it? What change are you trying to bring about? Is it a specific issue on transport, etc.? So think about what is it that you want to achieve. And then think about your audience, and their needs. So again, we go back to the coffee mornings. Hopefully we kind of know this, but parents might be feeling vulnerable, sensitive, emotional. We have to think about their needs. So whilst we might want to recruit 4 people, equally we need to show that there's something in it for them, and we can maybe help explain or answer some of their questions. So you're looking for that common ground where what's in it for me is what's in it for us. And then if you're looking at the bottom quadrant there on the left-hand side, develop your key messages. So if you know your goals, you've got your audience, then it's thinking about what are the key messages. And I would always say when we're looking at communication, think of maybe 1 to 3 things. If you have too much, then actually it gets lost and you miss the point. So 1 to 3 key messages, and always be authentic and credible. Use your experience, and that will come through. And then finally, once you've looked at that, then you're working out your channels. So you're thinking about, well, where did the messages need to go? Is it face-to-face? Is it a consultation? Are we going to use online? Are we going to actually get the papers involved, etc.? So do think about that. And it could be that you're obviously doing different things. Coffee mornings, you want face-to-face meetings, you might be handing out a leaflet, but actually to advertise that, you might be using all of your media, online, web, schools, all the avenues you can just to advertise that meeting. Okay. So we always say this, don't we? Listen to hear. So you've got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. So before we're all rushing out, wanting to do all this exciting stuff, actually understand. So going back to Jean's point about getting every member of the team listening and involved and having a confidential conversation, not saying you necessarily need to do all of that, but it is about getting everybody's viewpoint, understanding their perspective, and then you build on what you need to deliver. If you don't have all the skill set, and none of us have, a lot of the forums, are light, we don't have every single skill set that we need, take advice, get some professionals, use some of your DFE grant. Obviously, we're planning for this coming year. It might be a great opportunity to think about that so that you're balancing the skills that you don't have within the team. And do use your networks. Sharon's going to mention a little bit about how they network and use other parent care forums and links. But look at where you can kind of get together and almost be stronger because you've got more irons in the pie, fingers in the pie.
And eventually people will come to you, with this. People will come to you if you do all of this. Absolutely,
because you've got your credibility, you've got your reputation, your knowledge, your expertise, you're working collaboratively, and they know who to go to.
Yeah.
So what makes good communications? So just to some reinforcing points, really. So we've talked about you need to know your audience, with just a bit more detail about that in a minute. Messaging, consistency. If there's nothing you take away apart from vision and values, it's consistency. Channels and evaluation. So on the audience, understanding who you're speaking to and to say what they're interested in, really important, because we can be, I call it push-pull. If we're pushing out our messages all the time, but actually it's not what people want to hear or want to know about, then you're going to hit a brick wall. So you've got to find out what they're interested in and then use your messages to feed into that. So do your research and almost build a persona of who you're targeting. And remember, they're all going to be different. And we'll talk about that in a second. And how do they interact? So, a young person, we might be using Facebook quite a lot, but if we're aiming at young people, they're probably not on Facebook. They may be on Instagram or some other thing that I don't know. I know about because I'm too old. So this is going to help you plan and communicate. So here we've got a list. I won't necessarily go through all of them, but you can see, but even things like the local authority, you know, they're not uniform. You've got the SEN team, you've got social care, who are different again to the EP service, health, you know, paediatrics, paediatricians are very different to maybe speech and language therapists, etc., etc. So think about who all of your audience is. And it might be that you're not working with everyone yet. And again, that's okay. So prioritize and work on and target who you are currently working with so that you're doing that really well. And then if there are some organisations, agencies that you know in the future you need to work with, then you can plan ahead for that. You don't have to be working with all of these people all at the same time. So messaging, you know, we're all swamped with emails, text messages, media. I can't keep up with it personally. So you've got to be clear and concise. So keep it simple. So here we've got one strong message, just saying absolutely no more than 3. Prioritize it, really focus on it. Position it, thinking about your audience. So you're going to have a different message to local authority officials as you might have to young people, for example. Choosing your angle. So again, it's making sure that things are right for the audience, and also think visually about your content. Think about photos, the language you're using. Again, you might have somebody who's really good at official communications that you might use their skill set for the local authority, and equally you might have a parent that's really down to earth and really gets the parent perspective. So you might use them to help build some communication with young people and parents. Oh, yeah, so consistency. I was just going to pass over to Sharon to think about some of the things that she's been doing with the...
Just to touch on the nudge theory, I know we've talked massively about consistency, which is something that we really do strive to stick with at Warpack. The nudge theory is more likely to influence people. So it's not direct messaging. It's more positive reinforcement, like indirect suggestions, rather than really pushing your messages out there. It's done as a gentle message, really. So keep your messages really consistent. And something that Fazila just said about messaging, I also think timing is really important with that. I get lots of work done in the evening, for example, but that's not when I post. We do it during the day when parents and carers are more likely to pick messages up. So again, think about when you're posting, or for anybody that does do Facebook, time your posts. You can set them in advance to go off at a specific time, if anybody understands that. So again, establish your reputation, clear, consistent tone of voice, and design and messaging will work together to establish your reputation and what you stand for. And keep it consistent across your website, e-news, printed materials. Something that I've said all the way through is our colours are represented, even if it is just a Facebook message that goes out to invite to a coffee morning. It's not just the post, it's keeping the materials colourful, making sure that people see the presence of Warrington parents and carers throughout everything that we post, whether that's done on a website, whether that's done on a piece of paper, whether it's a flyer. It will still be our brand and our consistent message. Your team are your voice as well, so give them the tools they need to talk about and let them work in a consistent way. Something that Jean does very well with the team, and we do quite a lot, is we reevaluate after we've been to a meeting or we discuss things. We do ask questions about bits that maybe we didn't understand to help continually grow that consistency and confidence for other meetings.
I think that's a really good point, isn't it? Is that you're sharing the knowledge and you're helping people gain confidence and get consistency across the team in their level of knowledge, rather than keeping with it just a couple of people.
Yeah, we always have a debrief after any meetings, certainly at a strategic level. We always have a debrief meeting where we swap notes, we fill in the rest of the forum so they are up to date with what's going on, because I don't think there's anything worse than half the forum knowing what's going on and half the forum that doesn't know what's going on. Because if anything comes out of that, then you don't want to have to spend time then putting everybody up to speed, you know, whereas if you do it after a debrief or at the debrief, then it makes life a lot easier, and again, that's where your consistency comes in.
And it all takes planning. So this sounds straightforward, but actually it's quite hard to do in reality, I think.
Just on consistency, this is a picture of 2 editable flyers that we have. So the one to my left, looking at the screen, has the event title that can be changed and printed off in the office to put out for any events that we host. And the one on the right hand side is the love heart one, is just for simple messages that we post out for, again, it can be events, it can be invitations, it can be a note to a parent. We can use this for whatever, but we've still kept the consistent brand. And if along the bottom we still introduce who we are with contact details, Facebook, Twitter, the website page. So we're still trying to drive the message and spread the word with every document we use.
And I really like that, because you can, I mean, it also makes you more efficient, because you don't have to think about stuff, do you? You're not reinventing the wheel every time.
Yeah, it's pre-done, and this was all came along with the rebranding that Jean said earlier. So we can just replicate this for any events that we want and use, and again, it's consistent all the way through whatever we do, wherever we go, and with whoever we're networking with at that time.
Yeah, and on the back of these, usually, certainly the one on the left, there is a membership form printed on it.
Very canny.
So when they go out, there's automatically a membership form for anybody that picks it up that feels, yes, I want to get involved, or you know, I should be a member of this group. So it's there. So it's not something you have to think about.
That's a really good tip, I think. I'm going to make a note of that one. Okay, excellent.
So channels, what channels do you have at your disposal? It says use them well and match them to your audience. For example, there is no point investing time and effort on creating a flyer if you know that your audience is mainly on social media. Focus on the places that will have maximum impact. Well, I believe if you can use the channels, you would use them all. So I would use the flyers, we would use the social media, we would use Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we have the website, we've got our database, we use Dropbox quite a lot for lots of updates and information. So if you've wrote all them down, or if you're already using, that's great, but try to use as many options as possible. Think about your website, e-news, social media, text messaging, events that are coming up, etc. We've just hosted our annual conference last Tuesday, and we used Eventbrite to manage the actual event itself, so people had to register to come to the events. That's a huge, brilliant tool to use, that where we can register people, we have their email addresses then, so again we have contact with that person.
And is there a cost to that in using Eventbrite?
The local authority supported the funding with that, who we did it. So okay. Yeah, we did network with who was doing what at the time. But again, myself and the person from the local authority that supported could manage and interact with who was coming. Then we could send out reminders that a week before or a month before the event was still coming up, so people didn't just book on and then forget about it.
And you didn't have to do it, more importantly.
No, it just gets fired out.
With that as well, you know, you mix at the conference. So for table seating plans, it's fantastic, because then the names come in with the profession or the parent, and because of that mix, then you can disseminate the tables to your advantage.
Did you have to tick on Eventbrite who you represent, whether you're a parent, a professional, or it's a parent professional, and then it came under education, health and social. So we set Eventbrite up to manage
which meant that
the day.
You were clear who was who.
Also for websites, again, because we've got quite a good database now, we can send evites out to people. So rather than just a generic message that goes out to people that are part of the website or log on the website, we can directly message people to invite them. So that was a great support to get people that are already on our database to get an invitation. And also using channels like the local authority having access to all the schools, they were able to invite via email all the schools within Warrington. So again, using every channel to be able to make contact. Partners, building up your networks and finding those with a common cause and working together and helping them to spread the word. So something that Warrington have worked really hard on doing is building networks with different partners. So an example of that would be our steering group that we hold every month. On our steering group around the table, we have our Sendayas partner who comes along and gives us an update on their area. We have a link to the local authority who's our support there, and she comes to the monthly meetings. We also make contact with lots of other support groups in Warrington. So the chair of the NAS comes and sits and gives us an update on their area, and also the representative from the local offer. So we have lots of other partners that are supporting us, and we're sharing information and building on that to spread the word. Also choosing your angle. So what's your hook? I think it's really important that communications are competitive. I completely agree with Fazila. The amount of emails, the amount of email accounts I actually have is ridiculous. But then the social media, the notifications on things you're following for your own child, then you're trying to help other families, so you're following things for everybody else. And it's a minefield. So be really competitive. Don't send massive messages. It doesn't work. It needs to be short, sharp and snappy. Be really clear about how you want to fit that audience, and make sure that it's not just what you've done on that day. It's about then, did the post work? Did it not work? Why didn't it work? Well, I'll do it this way next time. Was it sent at 9 o'clock in the morning at the school run and everybody else got 100 Facebook messages after that, so I'll aim for 10 o'clock when they finish the school run? It's just really thinking about the angle that you send your communication out at.
I think it's some excellent points there, Sharon.
This is just, again, a very consistent brand message and using the digital channels. So this is our website, our Facebook page and our Twitter page. Linking pages is really, really good idea. So for example, when you post on Facebook, you can set it up to link to your Twitter. Bearing in mind, when you know about Twitter, it's only so many words, so think about how long your message is on Facebook, or half of it goes missing on Twitter. But it will post automatically. The same Facebook and Twitter posts will go on together.
And that means you're not having to duplicate effort, which is really good.
And this is why it's important, really, to get somebody in to help you to do this, because they will show you how to do all that. Because for those technophobes among us, it's really important that you get the help to do that.
And just a quick example of Warrington's Facebook page, you can see, again, the strapline of Make a Difference. We've got our logo on there, and the colouring, and again, it's all just consistency. And we have, within the forum, we have 3 administrations. Again, don't as a forum put yourself under pressure. If there is a couple of you that can manage Facebook, don't just have one person doing everything. We all look for different specific supports for other families, so we can all help to post on Facebook. So 3 of us work very closely together on what we send out.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sharon. So they're just the links, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just the links.
Guys, when you're downloading this, you can actually then go and have a look at your leisure. So evaluating, you need to know if what you've tried is really working. Evaluate your communications and continually evaluate, continually review, and check that everything's working as a whole. I agree with this. Feel free to experiment. I'm forever asking Jean, did I get that right? Did I say that right? Did I always reflect and listen to what your experience is around you? Because I've learned a lot since coming on board in the forum, just by really listening and sharing ideas with great people with loads of experience. So think metrics early on, when picking your channels. Think about how you will evaluate. So can you measure website hits, social media comments, likes and shares, sign-ups to events? Consider using trackable links like Bitly. Yeah, it's a great little, you can Google it, guys, and you can sign up and it will tell you and help track and give you information and analyse it without you having to do all the legwork.
Or using sign-up codes in your flyers. We use, and for anybody that does use Facebook, they give you stats every week on your percentage rises on your hits and on your likes and on your growth on your page, and that's something that on our private messenger group as a forum. I share that with our team whenever I can, when we've got some really good hits and really good growth where we are hitting more and more networks and sharing information. I update the team with a big hurrah on our page whenever we can. Ask people how they heard, what they think. Evaluating coffee mornings has been a real challenge for me, and it's kind of a feast or a famine, because it's a little bit like people only kind of sometimes want you when they need you, etc. So it's priceless to get the information when people are there. I really think about what people are telling me. I never don't go into a coffee morning without a pad, and that might sound a little bit sad, but it's just so I can help people. I'm taking notes. They can ask me anything they want. Zila said earlier on about having that empathy, really understanding that somebody might just want to cry for an hour, but really get out of that person how you can help them, and vice versa, what they need from you as a forum. And then use your information, think about what worked well and what didn't. We came out of the conference on Tuesday on an absolute high. Every single one of us, I think it was exhaustion. We were talking on Facebook privately us all at that night, and we couldn't even move our little pinky. Nothing was working. We were emotionally drained and exhausted from the day. But it's not just about what happened on the day and living on that high. It's about 3 to 6 months down the line. I mean, we've already had the local paper get involved. We're already being asked to get back involved. We're doing a report on the day. In 3 to 6 months, we're going to be talking about next year's conference. The local authority are already saying, what are we doing next year? Who was the young person that spoke? What are these videos we want to see? And so it's keeping that momentum then going and making a difference with all the feedback and everything we collated from the day. So really evaluate what works daily, after events, just from a Facebook post. Why did that one work so well? Why didn't the other? It's just evaluating all your information.
And again, it's worth, like we have done this time, is getting somebody in to help you with that evaluation, because then it's professional and you know that there's been a good job done on it. In this case, the local authority are helping us with that. We're very lucky that we've got a really good working relationship with the local authority. They've got their agenda and we've still got ours, but they are going to help us with that evaluation, and in fact have pulled a meeting together already for the facilitators on the day, the facilitators that were sat around the table for them all to bring that together. So that's a really good form of evaluation.
That's great. I think we've got some really good hints and tips there. And so now I just wanted to share a couple of examples of some other forums that they've been working on. So just bear with me. We've got Bromley Parent Voice here, and I'm just going to escape out of this because I wanted to just show you just a minute's clip. And oh, here we go. And I'm going to press play. So this is just what Bromley put together as a video clip for their parents. I won't show you all of it, but I'll just show you a couple of minutes. I just think it's quite interesting because it's trying to give messages across that, you know, in a long spiel can take quite a long time, but actually somebody sat at home going onto their website, immediately you can see, you know, some information about the organisation and you get a sense of the look and feel. Another great video, some of you may have seen this, I will show you this, it's from Surrey Family Voice, and it was about participation and what does participation actually mean? And that's really hard to explain to people. So what they did was they did a little video, and I'm just going to show you this now if I can. There you go. So you can get really creative with using some of that DFE grant money, and actually I got so excited when I saw that you can actually pay, if you contact Family Voices, we'll give you details at the end, they can change the logo, markings, etc., so that it can represent your forum. And actually we had our parents conference only a couple of weeks ago and we showed that and it went down really, really well. So Just excellent piece of work there. So in summary, top tips: start with the end in mind, set your goals, and agree what success looks like based on your vision, your mission, and your values. Stay focused, keep prioritized, keep it simple, so less is usually more. Remember, understand who your target audiences are and actually look at their needs. What is it that they're wanting from it, and try and kind of meet in the middle. Be consistent and build your brand across all of the mediums, all of the channels. Plan your communication strategy based on all of the above. And again, think of those key messages. Is it one key strong message? If you've got 2 or 3 there, what's the best way to do it? And it was interesting, Sharon was talking about her parent carer conference, and they got the media involved straight away. And actually we ran ours and we weren't sure how it was going to go, so we were a bit more cautious, so we kept it quiet initially, and actually it went so well that we've now got them involved, and we're doing it retrospectively because we've got pictures, visuals. The LA wanted to get involved, so you can still build things up post events. And again, as Sharon said, monitor, gain feedback. Don't just take the happy feeling from the day, but actually look at what's the impact over the longer term. So if you do want some further information, because we've kind of gone through this fairly briefly and swiftly, you've got our details there. Obviously, my name's Fazila, as you know, and Sharon at Warpack. And we've got the link here for the Surrey Family Voice if you did want to contact them to see if you could use their video for a fee. I think we paid about 175. So, and he was very swift and prompt on that. So guys, times for questions. If you want to send some through, or if you haven't already had a chance, and we will just, carry on and just listen. Have you got any thoughts, Sharon or Jean, from what we've been saying? Any last key points that you would want to make?
As you said, I think we've gone through it really swiftly, and I think there's a lot more that we could do. We could have done a whole webinar on
a workshop.
Yeah, we could have done, but it's trying to kind of capture what we feel are the top tips, really, and I think we've covered most of them. Is that what you think, Sharon? I think, is there any other burning issue? I mean, there's loads, isn't there, that you could kind of go off on a tangent with. But
I think before we did the webinar, just for everybody, I wasn't aware when I came to post in September last year that everybody or each forum didn't have a development officer. Yeah. So I asked Jean lots of questions about other forums, and I imagine, like, everybody's time is so precious with our children. I think if that is an option for you to do, I would definitely look into that. Contact myself at Warpack, and again, I can pass Jean's information. But that, from the previous development officer who was in post 18 months, and then for me being a volunteer, and then still being a volunteer and becoming on top the development officer, it's really been great to give more support in a paid capacity, where I really see my role in driving and supporting the forum as well as doing the job of being the development officer. Because I know Facilitator touched on it a little bit, it's quite easy to become deflated sometimes and a little bit negative, and that's where I believe morale within the forum has got to be paramount to make a difference to the families. And so I feel my job massively is to help to drive that support through the forum, and to spot where maybe that isn't happening, and to tell Jean where I'm more in the office more often and in contact with a lot of the forum a lot of the time. So I think that would be something I would definitely share to look into.
And we've just got some questions around, Jean, you mentioned that you know, where you don't have the skills, you've brought it in, so you've got Facilitator, you had your graphic. How have you sourced those? How did you go about doing that?
Well, it's usually through contacts that one we already know, or we have researched to get the right person for the right job, and cost is another implication. Absolutely. Obviously, because funding is limited. So it's really about making sure that, and Warrington, we have a voluntary action group, Warrington Voluntary Action, and they've been a huge help to us in one, putting adverts in for us and things like that if we need any help there with the training. There's a guy there called Dave that we work with a lot on training, because we have in-house training regularly within the forum. So it's not just about us networking that way and outwardly, we network inside as well, and that means keeping on top of training within the group. So for instance, if we feel that we need to revamp ourselves emotionally, then we run courses for us and get a trainer in to do some counselling work, or to talk to us, to have some supervision, if you like. Because when it's like a counsellor, if you're a trained counsellor, you automatically have supervision, because you're dealing with upset on a daily basis. Sometimes the job's great, but you are inevitably going to come across people who are struggling, who are finding it difficult to cope, and you find it difficult to cope sometimes because you're also a carer, a parent or a carer, and it's nice to be able to release that without feeling that you're the one. So we implement that as well as a forum.
So just, I mean, it's interesting that some of the questions coming through, it's great that you've got the local authority involved, you've got them inside, but what if you don't? So if you're an organisation that perhaps, doesn't have such a good relationship, have you got any top tips in terms of presenting yourself to that local authority to build relationships?
Well, one of my top tips at the moment, and whether this is going to be, I don't know, is because of the inspection stuff that's going around at the moment, the Ofsted stuff, is that it's an ideal opportunity. And I've been asked by a couple of forums, and I've said, look, now is your opportunity to go to your local authority and say you are about to be, if you haven't already had it, to be Ofsteded. And at the end of the day, the parent carer forum, it plays a huge part in that, a huge part. And if you go to your authority, it's an opening to be able to say, look, we want to work with you. You have your agenda, we have ours, but we really want to work together to improve the lives of our children and families with SEND. This is an ideal opportunity to do it, because you will come out smelling of roses rather than not smelling of roses if you work with us.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. When we were looking at the letters, the Ofsted inspection letters, where some of them have gone into the equivalent of what you would call special measures, is where they haven't been working with the forum. So that might be a good leverage to present yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying go in there kicking off, about you need to be working with us, but just email them or get a contact. There's always one. The problem is getting the cohort to get on board, but there are always a couple of people, at least within the LA, that want to work with parents. Always want to work, and if you can get them on board and then start disseminating it and just say, look, is there any chance of a meeting to discuss this? Because if you're not working with us, it's going to look bad with you.
Exactly.
And at this climate, the present climate, I think that's a great opportunity.
I always find cost cutting is a good one, a good leverage in to help them save money and keep the quality up.
Yeah.
So Sharon, a question for you in terms of, all of the leaflets, the Facebook pages, etc. How did that come about? Did you get a graphic designer to do that?
Yeah, when the website was redone and everything was rebranded, it was done alongside that. So it was a printer called Thrive who actually did all the artwork and all the different types of flyers, roll banners. He did a whole USB of artwork that we kept bought for. So we actually own the sorry, excuse me, there's another question. We actually own that, and then they were then able to get the USB off us, and we could then buy into more artwork and be able to produce the flyers.
So we're just looking at another question here. We think it's from Fiona. Do you use promo items to promote your forum, and do you have any that are most popular?
The promotional items that we tend to use would be more for things at events. So our canvas bag that we use, again, is in our colours, and and I wouldn't, just for top tips, you know, we're talking about money and cost cutting there, and we don't use anything like Vistaprint or eBay. We go on eBay a lot and design our own using our colours that we know we use in the our artwork. So we've got canvas bags that have got our logo and our image printed on in our colours, and we also use stress balls. We think this is brilliant, but we do them in a heart shape. So if anybody wants to look for that, it's a stress ball for a parent carer in a heart shape, but it will be the heart's generally green or blue or vice versa, with a green or blue logo on for Warpack, and you could do the same in your colours.
I mean, we have tried other things. We've tried water bottles with our logo on. We have the obligatory pens.
Yeah.
We do magnet for the fridge with a little notepad on, and they just, everything goes, doesn't it? Really, yeah. I don't think there's any one thing. The stress balls, probably. The stress
ball and the fridge magnet, I'd say, with a notepad are probably the most popular that we run out of the quickest.
Yeah, and we use mirrors. Yeah, I think it's a really good use of DFE funding, actually, to again reinforce those freebies. So we've got another question coming through from Juliet. What were the costs for the professionals involved in developing the website and training? I mean, I guess just an approximate idea. We're talking about hundreds of pounds, as opposed to thousands.
Thousands, unfortunately, yeah. It cost something in the region of about 3.5, I think. I haven't got the figures with me, but it was something like that. But that included all our own artwork, so we can continue to use that. We had an ongoing training. I think there was a 3-year contract where it was a train the trainer, so they came in and trained us, and if there's any issues, we can go back to them. They update it for us. So it was quite a big contract. It was expensive, as I said, but it was well worth it, because they will then come in and do some training with you as well on how to maintain that website, which is a big job.
I know in the last the funding that we put through for the grant, we also put £500 aside for our training pot, so that and we generally forecast to spend that with what Jean said, training in-house within the team and forum, and kind of doing a bit of cleansing training where we kind of regroup and get back on the right path.
But also remember, I mean, the fees are expensive, and you need to look at what skills you have also within the forum, and you might have members out there who are not actually part of the forum, but they're web designers, architects, whatever. You can always worth trying emailing out, because we've done that, and that saved us quite a lot of money. So you've got interested parties who've already got skill set.
Yeah, it's about pulling,
so utilise all your skills around you.
Yeah, it's about pulling in favours. You know, anyone that anyone that you feel could contribute. You know, as a friend of a family, if it's the aunt second removed on your father's side, you know, that knows what they're doing.
Okay, so we've just got time for maybe one last question as we close off. So I think it's Claire from Southampton. So she said issues with parents getting really angry about proposed SEND funding cuts. And they're really trying to get the message out that the strong forum message really is working with the LA and not seeing them as the enemy. Do you have any experience of this and how to manage this?
Not particularly with the SEND. We have a lot of parents that are obviously angry about the cuts. But at the end of the day, what we do is we try with any issue that comes up like that is by throwing out what we call ask away sessions. We named it ourselves. We call it an ask away session, and what we do is we hold the local authority to account. So we say we have got a number of parents here who have got an issue, whether it be the SEND cuts, whatever it be. You need to come and answer the questions. So we have these ask away sessions where we invite all the families and someone from the local authority, and they just fire questions at them, and they answer to the best of their ability and hope that they'll be honest, which is my advice to the LA. If you're honest to families and to parent and carers and young people, then they're going to maybe not accept it and say, well, yeah, but you're going to have a better chance of them understanding why they're in that situation. It's about transparency.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to working together, and sometimes those parents can be coming up with some ideas and suggestions. that the LA haven't thought about, that they can then build in to mitigate some of those, the impacts of some of those cuts. So I think we're actually out of time now, guys. So we hope you found this session enjoyable. So thanks for attending. Thank you, Jean, for your time and sharing your time. Just before you leave, a short questionnaire will launch at the end of this webinar. So do take just a couple of minutes to complete this, as it will obviously help us plan future online training events, including other topics that you'd like to see. And remember, the recording of this webinar and the presentation and questions, so if you've got more questions, feed them through and we can still respond to them. And then what we'll do is we'll put that up on the parent participation resources page of Contact a Family's website next week. And an email will actually be coming out to confirm this once it's available. So thank you again.